Welcome back to another episode of Let's Stay In.
I'm Anna, and this is Mark.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we got to give you that annoying reminder. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, comment. If there's a button, make sure you click it. Somehow, I think that helps us out.
With that being said, let's just jump right in.
Taylor, welcome to the podcast. How we doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
No problem at all. Yeah, Taylor and I met. Anna, actually, I was trying to figure it out who I met first. I met Taylor a long ass time.
I think you met her first.
Yeah?
Right?
Yeah, a long time ago.
You said 7 years?
Yeah. Well, and probably like 8 years or something. We haven't seen each other in 7 years, so it's been even longer.
Yeah, we shot back when I was I think living in my first apartment in LA. And then we always stayed loosely in contact on social media. And then you moved out to, would you move out to New York?
To New York, yeah. Yeah, but you remember how we met? You were like, pick me up from the airport and then let's shoot.
No, I don't even remember that. That
Yeah,
happened?
I'm obsessed
Literally,
with that.
Wow.
we were like trying to coordinate a shoot and you're like, I land at this time, pick me up, we'll go shoot, and then drop me off at home. And
What
that's
a
how
hustler
we met.
and schemer.
That's called save a little money on
Resourceful.
on getting the Uber and then you get to do a photo shoot.
Two birds with one stone.
That worked out. No, I forgot that I did that, but smart play, Mark.
Yeah.
Would do
Good
it
job,
again.
old Mark.
Would do it again.
I'm going to be honest, I've done that before. I've done that multiple times.
I was going to say, we know
yeah,
you've done it
yeah,
before.
can confirm you've done that before.
Yeah. Because when I was shooting all the time, it was Anna knows, I was flying a lot and things like that. And so I'd always time it out perfectly where I'd if I was shooting in Michigan or whatever, the last person that I would shoot with, I'd be like, okay, so we're going to finish shooting at this time. And then the airport's conveniently 15 minutes away from where we're shooting. So I'll just have you drop me off at the airport afterwards. Boom. We're
boom.
We're going to be as efficient as humanly possible. So.
Such a hustler. You know, I've actually posted on my Instagram story before, hey, anyone want to pick me up from LAX? And some random guy picked me up from the airport.
No.
Okay,
But this was a long time. I had met him once, but it wasn't a complete stranger, but we definitely were not friends. We didn't know each other. I was like, what is going on here? He's like, you want to grab dinner? I'm like, I'm hungry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're like, no.
I'm like,
Were you interested in this person?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, of course not.
Okay.
But she threw him a
I
pity dinner?
I was interested in not paying $80 to get back from LAX. This is I don't know, probably 8 years ago. So.
But you have downside of murder.
Yeah, but I was like, he didn't seem murdery. I've met him before.
Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes
they don't give murdery.
That's the worst. My friends, my best friend, she told me I needed a better sense of stranger danger because when I was in Miami and I had just moved into my new apartment, I was walking down the street and I had a box that I was going in and carrying, and this guy's like, "Hey, can I drive you home with that box?" And he had a Jeep with no doors, and I was like, I can get out of here. There's no doors. Okay, you can drive me. And then he's like, can I build your bed for you? I was like, I don't know how to build it. You can build it for me.
Taylor.
I know.
This is
But
so
she's
bad.
like, you have to get a better sense of stranger danger. I was like, honestly though, I felt the vibe was that he wanted to ask me out. The vibe wasn't that he was going to kill me.
Yeah, but Netflix. Have you seen the
Have you
documentary?
seen
I don't watch things like that.
Well, you should.
And also, so the thing that got me into true crime was when I was a freshman in college, I was reading this thing about how the dumbest thing as a woman, no offense, is to put yourself in a position where a man has helped you because we subconsciously, unconsciously feel like we owe them something.
Oh, I do not feel like that.
So
I
feel
like
unique, wonderful human.
No,
but
I do not feel like I owe guys anything.
Well, we feel like we owe them something. And then whenever they will then start doing something that gives you red flag energy, you're like, oh, it's okay. He did that thing. And you justify it because he seems so nice. And that's when a lot of crimes are committed.
I feel like I'm immune to that because I definitely don't feel like I owe people. I know a lot of people say that even with dating. They're like, oh, I don't want him to pay for dinner because then I owe him. And I'm like, no, he got to spend time with you. You went there and you were gracious, you were good company, and you were polite, and he gets to be in your presence. That's what you give him.
Yeah.
Well, what about my presence?
That's so healthy.
Your presence, I gave you a ride to the airport.
There we go. Okay, I got a question for you based off the stuff we just talked about. But before we do that, give your 30-second spiel. Who is Taylor? What are you doing with your life? What do you want to do? All that good stuff.
So I have been modeling full time for years. Actually started when I was 9 years old. My first job was Barbie commercials.
Oh my gosh.
And I have, that's been my job my entire adult life. I'm very into personal development and meditation, and I'm currently working on writing a book that's going to be a personal development book for beginners, similar to You Are a Badass, where it's very digestible and easy to read, but I want to gear it toward young girls so I can talk about my modeling experience and pageantry experience and confidence and beauty tips, and all of that will go into this Yeah, book for young girls.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Amazing.
That's awesome. We're looking forward to reading that. We'll read it. We'll have you back on the podcast to talk about
you
that.
can-
Question for you based off the stuff we were just talking about before this.
Okay.
Have you ever dealt with a stalker?
I have never had a stalker.
Ma'am, consider yourself blessed. Anna,
know.
you've dealt with a stalker
Oh, for
before,
sure.
right? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Really?
I had this one guy my freshman year of college who would go into the laundry room, take my laundry out, and then fold all my laundry and then put it outside my door.
Oh.
And then he would also wait outside my door to make sure I got home safe every day. And I was just like, oh, that's silly so-and-so, and I didn't realize how creepy that was. That's just one of a few.
Yeah. I even dealt with a stalker at one point.
Really?
Yeah, back in high school. There was, long story short, met a girl at a football game, didn't think anything of it, and gave her and a few other people my number. And then fast forward like a week, she was like, oh, hey, I just happened to be in your hometown. And I was like, oh, okay, which was like an hour from where she lived. And I was like, oh, you can come over and say what up. And so she comes over and normal conversation. And then I was like, okay, I have to get going, whatever. And so she leaves. Next week, she's like, oh, hey, I'm in Milford. And I'm like, why are you here? It's so random to be here, but whatever, you can stop on by. So she stops by and then she goes upstairs and she's like, oh, I didn't see your bedroom last time I was here. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll show you my house, whatever. And then she sits on my bed and she's like, kiss me. And I was like, no, I'm good. And she was like, I'm not leaving until you do. And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
That is insane.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, hey, either you get out of my house or I'm going to call the cops. And so she ended up leaving. I think this is back in 2008. She sent me, I want to say it was 800 text messages afterwards, which this is pre-unlimited texting.
Oh.
I got billed $400 or $500 for the amount of text she was sending.
Messed up. I'm gonna request her.
She yeah, I should. She's married now. She followed me on Instagram a few years ago, and I looked at her page. I was like, oh,
she's normal and married.
semi-normal, has kids, the whole nine. Hope she's not listening to this. She may be.
Yeah, she's definitely listening to this.
Yeah, but she showed up at, I was running a nightclub, and so one day I'm at the nightclub, and the bartender comes up to me, and she's like, oh, I just gave drinks to your girlfriend. And I was like, to my who? And she's like, your girlfriend. I was like, I don't have a girlfriend. And she's like, well, who was that girl? She starts describing her. I'm like, oh my God, was her name such and such? And she's like, oh yeah, that was it. And I was like, okay. So we ended up there were police that worked there. So we had them had her escorted out. And then that's when I realized you could call Verizon, because this is back before you could just go on your phone and block somebody. We had to call Verizon, get her number blocked. And then after that, I never dealt with her again until she followed me probably 2-3 years ago on Instagram.
That is so crazy.
At least I got my laundry folded.
Wow. Yeah,
This
I
is
can't
worse.
I've never had a stalker.
But that's the thing. You don't want them to know where you live. You know what I mean? That was the issue I had, is that she knew where I lived. So she could show up. She could do whatever, right? And so from a safety standpoint, especially being a woman, you got to be careful.
I was like, whatever. It's a big space. There's lots of people here. I'll be fine. But I agree. I have to be more careful.
Your dad's going to listen to this and be like, okay, I'm
Honey.
going to have a talk with Taylor.
Hey, so I heard your podcast. We just need to talk about this.
Yeah. He's like, I will put your bed together, but you'll never have.
I am totally safe, everyone. Don't worry about me.
There we go. So, Taylor, well, where do we want to dive into from here? Because I feel like, we were talking about what we wanted to get into in this podcast episode, and you sent over some crazy, interesting topics.
Yeah, there's a few things that stuck out to me.
Well, and we've already gotten into a few Taylor stories. Including, obviously this guy helping put together a bed and whatnot. So give us some of your, you've lived in New York, you've lived in LA. Have you also lived in Miami too?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so you lived in Miami too. You've got to have some crazy dating stories.
Oh, I definitely have some crazy dating stories, but the craziest ones, we're all from Miami. I don't know what is wrong with the guys in Miami.
So you would say it's the worst.
Oh,
between
Miami
the 3 cities.
by far is the worst. The guys are insane.
Well, give us something. Give us some Miami dating
what's the
story.
brand of crazy?
Okay, so this is pretty crazy. I was at my birthday dinner, so I had a bunch of friends who didn't really know each other. And one of my friends, she's a lot younger. She's kind of like my little sister, and she was chatting to one of my agents, who's my good friend. She was like, "Oh, I've been dating this guy from the Dolphins," and kind of bragging a little bit. And so then he's like, you know what? I know 5 girls dating this guy. I don't want to hear it, basically. And she's like, no way. That can't be true. And so she starts telling him, oh, he plays this position and this is his name, whatever. And he's like, oh, actually, I don't think that's the guy. And I was like, I'm also dating a guy from the Dolphins. So what is it? And I tell him and he goes, oh, that's the guy. And I was like, no, we've been on such romantic dates. And he goes, oh, did he take you on a bike ride through South Beach and then you spontaneously stop and get sushi? And he's telling me play by play this entire date that was like so romantic. And then he's like down to like telling me what this guy's house, he's like, yeah, and his house is so beautifully interior decorated and it's like this and that. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he does that with everyone. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, there's no way. Like, I named his kitten. And he's like, everyone names the kitten. It's just part of the routine. And I was like, what? How many names does this cat have? But no, it's funny
12.
because like in retrospect, there was so many like lines that I think he probably said to everyone that like we're supposed to get a different reaction out of me. But like, I don't drink and I was like completely sober, so they didn't really work on me. But like there's at one point where like sitting in the backyard in the pool, by the pool, and it's like changing colors. It looked really beautiful. And I was like, oh, your pool is so nice. And he's like, oh, I've lived here 1.5 years and I've never gone in. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like next time I'll bring my swimsuit. We should go. And I feel like when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's how he gets people to skinny dip.
Oh, 100%.
Every single time.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
I got a crazy
smooth.
idea. What
He's
if
like-
the first time we go into the pool is right now and we're just naked? Like,
Yes, and the whole time, like that whole date is diabolical, right? Because if a guy like texts me and is like, hey, come over to my house and like watch a movie, I'm like, no. But if he's like, oh, let's go on a cute little bike ride, by design, that date ends at his house to put the bikes back. And it just was so smooth, so
He's
perfectly
smart.
done, right? It's like evil genius.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was wild to hear like my agent just play by play tell me the exact date that I had been on that felt so spontaneous like at the time.
did you bring it up to the guy?
No, I just never talked to him again.
I just feel like he found a formula. He's like, well, it does work.
Yeah. Oh, I could totally see how that works, especially like if you're drinking and everything, like is very like the mood was so beautiful,
Yeah.
like the ambiance, everything. And it's like so cute to go on a bike ride. Like that's such a fun, like wholesome date.
Pro athletes scare me.
I know.
They scare me. Do you have any other athlete horror stories? I always like to hear that when they're confirmed true, all the things in my head.
I mean, honestly, I don't date a lot of athletes, but I have another story about this guy's like a singer, but we went on a few dates and like they were cute. They were wholesome. We went to like a botanical garden and we went to a rage room, which is like strangely vulnerable for a first date.
Oh, yeah.
Just like break a bunch of stuff. But yeah, it was cute. We went on like a few dates. It was all fine and fun. This is when I lived in Miami and this was in Miami, but he lived in LA. And so, you know, he left and it kind of like fizzled out. And, you know, it was like we texted for a week or two and then just nothing else. And then 6 months later, he calls me out of the blue. Like we haven't spoken, nothing. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I don't see a serious relationship with you.
You should be like, oh, this is really hard for me to hear.
I was like, oh, okay. And like we had, like the last time we had communicated, I actually didn't respond to him. So it was so wild that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then he starts making small talk. He's like, so how was the Joe Dispenza retreat? How's your mom? And I was like, I'm going to go. This is very
Sounds
weird.
crazy.
Yeah, that's odd as
Yeah,
hell.
his whole brand is like so spiritual and like whatever. And I'm like, you are a freaking weirdo.
So don't flatter yourself. Like, I don't want a serious relationship with you either.
Yeah, I'm like, buddy, the last time we talked, I left you on red.
Oh, he probably didn't like that. And he's like, I need to put it back into my power position.
See, that's what some guys have said to me. They're like, oh, he was totally just trying to like, he was trying to like get back in there in a weird way.
He was.
It's like by having that conversation go afterwards. So now that I've said this, how are you doing? Like, no.
Because I've heard from a lot of my guy friends that unfortunately girls become interested in them once they realize that it's not reciprocated. So like when the girl feels like the guy's not into him.
Yeah, like
that's when-
negging, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hate negging.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. I think that only works on people with like low self-esteem.
And that is
Well,
a
that's-
large population.
yeah.
So
Yeah. You know, I went in London with my best friend. This guy was like, you know, he just kept negging me and it was so obnoxious, but like, this is going to sound so weird, but he would do it in a way. It wasn't like, hey, big head. He would be like, oh, you're just like so perfect. You're so whatever. Because I'm very like put together. I don't drink. And like, you know, out at a bar, I think he wanted me to be more like loose. And so he kept making comments that were like negative, but about that. And I was getting so annoyed. And my best friend just looks at him and she's like, stop negging her. She doesn't like it. I was like, okay, to the point. And then he stopped. He's like, you don't like it? And I was like, no. And so he just stopped.
you don't like it. He's like, I'm flirting with you. I'm like actively flirting.
I'm like, no, but like flirt nice.
yeah.
Tell me I'm pretty.
A lot of guys go negative.
So those are your Miami dating stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we got in New York? 'Cause I feel like it's got to be a different breed of human in Miami, in New York, in LA.
Oh, yeah.
What do we got in New York?
So I do feel like there's a lot of crossover with like LA, New York, Miami. But like the first date not the first actual date, but like the first week that I moved in New York last year, I went out with this guy and we had matched on Raya, and like he was so handsome. We had such a fun time. But we had matched while I still lived in Miami before I moved to New York. So I feel like in the meantime, maybe he got like a girlfriend or something, but was still curious. And so we went out. We had like such a great date. We didn't like kiss or anything, but it was very like good chemistry. And since I had just moved, I was like, oh, do you want to come help me like build my dresser? See, there's a theme here. We love people building things for me. And so he the next day came and like tried to help me for a couple hours. Like, again, like definitely was giving the vibe that he liked me. And then he didn't have time to finish. So he was like, I'll just hire a TaskRabbit and he'll come and like finish it for you. So he left. The next day, TaskRabbit comes, builds it again. I never hear from this guy ever again. I was like, that is so bizarre. Like, you liked me enough to take me on a date and then make an effort to build my dresser and then pay someone to build my dresser. I was like, yeah, he liked me and was curious and wanted to meet me, but he definitely got a girlfriend in those couple months that we like weren't talking.
You guys are good with the 2-in-1 things, like the tasks, the picking up from the airport, the building of the dresser.
Oh, we're both hustlers.
I respect
that.
Yeah. I am not like that, so taking notes.
Yeah, I mean that's smart plays. Again, I worry more about your safety. I never really worried about mine. I was just like, all right, whatever, like I'll be good. But I mean,
the guys from Raya are safe, right?
I don't think
No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I know one that's not.
yeah, no, definitely not. But have you dealt with any crazies? I don't feel like any of these people have been crazy.
Crazies. You know, this is so long ago, but back in the day in LA, I went on a date with this guy, and he was wearing himself on his shirt.
Oh, that's
so LA.
yeah.
Like he had and he was in like a fighter pose, and I was like, oh, is that you on your shirt? And he's like, yeah, it's my fighting shirt. I was like,
what did he do for a living?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
I don't know, but I just know that he showed up to the date like at night wearing himself and like gym shorts. And I was like, this is insane. What is going on?
So he wasn't
here?
in entertainment. Like this isn't like he had a mass amount of these shirts.
Maybe he was like, no, he definitely wasn't like famous or anything, but I think that maybe that was the goal.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah,
you've got to get it. LA's the worst.
Yeah, no, but like, but here's
back.
The thing. No, but here's the thing. I can't let LA take that. Like, that's just a weird dude. That dude could be in Kansas. He'd still be strange as hell. Like, that's not like
true.
LA doesn't just make you weird.
That's a specific type of weird.
You just feel more comfortable being weird in LA, but like LA doesn't make you odd. Like, you have to be odd to rock yourself on your shirt, especially on a date. Like, I don't know what other context you would have a photo of yourself on a shirt, whatever, but like the place that you wear is definitely not a date.
Yeah,
I think everybody can agree on that.
I actually don't have any shirts with myself on them.
No, not one.
Yeah, but if you happen to, I don't know, you probably wouldn't wear it on a first date. Like, I don't know when you'd wear it. Like, maybe to bed. Like that would be it. I don't know. Just not. I don't know. Not.
It's like, well, you can have
good night,
it.
my queen. I love you.
Okay, actually, question for you two. Do you think speaking of putting yourself on apparel, do you think it's weird when people put themselves on items for their partner? Like, have you ever seen when like
like on TikTok I always see that shirt, the girlfriend shirt.
Yeah, like a girlfriend shirt, or like I've seen guys that have made like, I don't know, t-shirts for their wife before they go on to like on their bachelorette party or things like that. Is it strange to do that?
See, I feel like it's a little bit funny, but like it has to be a joke. Like, you can't be like, you need to seriously wear this shirt with my face on it so that people know you're taken. That's weird energy. But like, if you're going, on some like bachelor trip and you have your, face on your significant other shirts, okay, that's funny for like one night. But I think the serious expectation that this is going to like scare people away is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it like for even 1 second. So I don't really have an opinion on it. I just wouldn't do it.
I've seen boxers before that are like the woman's face on
the boxers.
Yeah.
If you're doing it as a joke and it's like a stupid picture of you and like you're not, you know what I mean?
And no one else will see the boxers probably.
Yeah. Like,
if they do, they're going to get scared because there you are.
Yeah. Boxers would be funny, or as long as it's funny, I guess. But I do feel like if anybody does that as like a serious thing, it's like, that is run.
I see people do it like on TikTok that are like posting these photos like, so they like legitimately, I feel like, want to scare people away from their man, which is like, okay, that's weird energy.
Actually, wait, I know the most cringe shit. when you go to somebody's Instagram and they have their partner's name in their bio. The cringiest thing of all time. Tell me your relationship sucks without telling me your relationship sucks. Why is your partner's name? I don't give a damn what the context is. There is absolutely zero rationale to have your partner's name in your Instagram bio.
I agree with you. I think it's super cringe. I also wouldn't hate it if someone put my name in their bio.
But you're never. But the right dude would never do that.
No. I don't want a guy who would let me make him put my name in his bio, but I like the idea of it happening.
Fair.
That's so fair. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. In college,
Yeah.
I had my boyfriend's initials in my bio, which is somehow even more embarrassing. It was like, JE or like whatever with a heart next to it.
Yeah.
So I did that for my, I did that twice. And they were both my most like possessive, jealous boyfriends.
Right.
So I was doing it. So they'd be like, okay, that's my property.
Well, and how old were you during that time period?
19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're a grown ass adult and you're doing that, like,
It's a little weird.
therapy. Have you heard of it? Like, I don't know. There's just no rationale for that. And the amount of times I've seen that, or like couples that do their Instagram together, I've seen that
shared
too.
Facebook.
Yeah, tell me someone cheated without telling me someone cheated.
Absolutely. Let me get the background info.
Yeah.
What about a tattoo on your partner, like about with your name on it?
I would love that.
like an
Taylor.
initial
Like,
or-
yeah, and my name is spelled like really different, so just like a cute little Taylor. I think I would love that, honestly. One time this guy almost got a T tatted on him on the first date, and I knew I didn't like him like that. I was like, no, let's not do this right now.
but also that's horrifying on the first date.
Yeah, I mean, we had like chatted a little bit before the date, but literally like the first date.
Okay, let's drop dating tips by Taylor in a few minutes. We'll circle back to that. That's so scary.
Yeah.
That's so scary. That is serial killer energy to me.
Yeah, honestly, because he had his whole like family's initials on his knuckles, and he had like one knuckle free, and he's like, oh, I should put a T, and literally was like turning into a tattoo shop, and I was like, I already knew like I wasn't going to see him again at this point. So I was like, no, let's not do that. I should have, though. It would have been a cool story, but I just felt like it wasn't very nice.
That could have been your first stalker case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like anybody who's willing to do something to that level, I'm worried about like, what is your decision-making process like? You know what I mean? It's just like
Impulsive.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, remember when Ryan Sheckler got Sheckler tattooed across his back? Do you guys remember that back in like 2007? I don't know. Skateboarder. I don't know. Chicks loved him when I was in high school.
He was the hot guy on MySpace.
Yeah, he was that dude back in 2007. But anywho, he gets his last name tattooed across his back, right? And I remember somebody at one point was like, oh, is he putting that there so he doesn't forget what his own last name is? And I kind of look at it like as a joke. Like obviously they're saying like that's dumb. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And I look at that as the same thing of like getting your partner's name tattooed on you. I'm like, are you going to forget it otherwise? Like what is the point of that? And so then I go to, what is your decision-making process like? And I've just never seen somebody who's gotten a tattoo like that and their relationship hasn't broken up. So, it's just...
it's bad luck, right?
Yeah.
Jinxes it.
Yeah, it jinxes it.
Yeah.
It's also probably bad luck because, again, you're making bad decisions. So, like, obviously a relationship is not going to work out with someone who's making bad decisions.
I had an ex that wanted to tattoo my whole name around his wrist, like a bracelet, so that every time he threw the football, he would be able to see my name.
That's kind of cute.
Oh, I thought it was so creepy.
Oh.
I hated it. I was like, we're together. Like, why can't we just know that? Like, mentally and emotionally. Like, why can't we just know that we love each other and that's all that matters?
Well, also, I think at a point where the relationship is, like, more serious, that makes more sense. Like, to have some sort of tattoo or something. Like, people do it for, like, their family, their kids, or something like that. Like, okay, that's a little bit more permanent. But just, like, a boyfriend is a little crazy.
He was also telling people we were engaged when we weren't. So there was just a lot of red flags there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need dating tips from you.
Yeah. Oh, my God. No, you don't.
She's in a good headspace now, but there was a time period. Yeah.
It was pretty bleak.
Yeah. So, okay, wait. So you were telling us about, we brought up Instagram for a second, people putting their initials, their partner's initials in the bio and whatnot. You were telling us about something that you do with your Instagram story, your close friend story.
Oh, I love it.
You got to tell us more about this. So what do you do when it pertains to dating and your close friend's IG story?
Okay, so my, like, Instagram regular story nothing, very sweet, very demure. My Instagram close friends, very, very chaotic. Like, I will give the whole play-by-play. I'm like getting ready for a date. I'm like, this is the guy. We're going to go do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'll come back and give an update. And then I would do like weekly roundups, and I'd be like, okay, this is the roster this week. Number 1, first place, we have the tennis player. Second place, we have the French pop star. I would just like list them all, and I'd be like, oh, he moved up this week because we had that really great ice skating date, whatever it was. And I would just every week keep all of the close friends posted on like the status of everyone that I was like meeting, and it was so funny.
Would the guy ever make it to the close friend story?
You know, I had one time a guy in there, and like I kind of like we kind of had a little flirty dynamic, but he wasn't like super on the roster. I remember he replied to the story and was like, "Can I get bumped up to number 3 next week?" And I was like, "We'll see."
Oh, good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Okay, I really like that.
They liked it because it's funny. Like the whole thing, like it was in really good spirits. You know, like it was a joke.
What about when you're in a relationship? Do you put like intimate details on your close friend's IG story? Like, what are you doing in those situations?
You know, well, a little bit. I feel like relationship me is such a like lover girl, and like single me is such a menace. And so in my close friends, I like when I was dating my ex, I would make funny like videos of him. Like I remember we were in Turkey and I took a video of him and he was like, you know, showering after he got out of the ocean in the, you know, like the outdoor shower. And I made it in like slow-mo and put pony, like Genuine. And everyone was like cracking up, like, this is so funny. But I would, you know, it's not as like intimate. When you're in a relationship, but yeah, I would still like make fun of.
I wasn't sure if you were doing like sex reviews on your close friend's IG story. Like today, he did.
My gosh,
I don't know,
lackluster, but he was jet lagged. So
yeah, sexual experiences 1 to 10.
I love that.
We're not here for that. You know, I'm like he's doing great in other areas today.
Okay, fair.
We're not rating performances. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about dating as a model. You're obviously gorgeous. As a gorgeous woman, do you feel like men ever want to get with you for the wrong reasons, be with you for the wrong reasons, just to say that they had, like, almost like it's like a bucket list,
or like
sort
checking
of thing,
off a box kind of thing.
Checking off a box. Do you feel like, I mean, I guess you wouldn't know anything else if you've just been a gorgeous person, but
oh, thank you. First of all, that's so nice of you to say. But no, I think that there's definitely, you know, guys are always worried about being used for like their money or whatever, and I feel like for me, I'm scared of like that guy who always has a different model on his arm. Like, yep. And the thing is, like, when you meet someone, you don't know that that's that guy. And sometimes like you'll know with certain friends, you're like, oh, he comes with a different model, like to every event. And so I definitely think that's something that's like, I'm not like really thinking about it, but it's on my mind a little bit. And I think it's also kind of weird because I've had partners in the past who get super jealous, you know, that I get a lot of DMs or that, you know, certain people follow me, and that causes problems in relationships sometimes that are really unnecessary, you know, like when I'm with someone and I'm really committed to them and they like need to know all of the like details of anyone who's ever DM'd me, anyone who's ever taken me to dinner. And I'm like, I'm so wholesome. So I'm like, you're asking me to tell you about people that I've never even like held hands with. And so sometimes like I've had that experience and it feels very invasive. Yes. and like, honestly, just weird, you know? I'm like, trust me, I'm a good person. I love you. I'm like very public about loving you. You know, everyone in my life. And yeah, so I think that's like been a challenge for me.
Yeah. And it's none of your business. Like everybody has a past.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like, you know, I can understand if there, you know, was some physical intimacy or there was like some really deep emotions even, but I'm like, I literally had an ex who like wanted to know anyone who's ever taken me to dinner. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this, you know? And sometimes like if we're watching, you know, some sports, like even when we're watching the Olympics, he's like, oh, how many of these guys have been in your DMs? And just like always comments like that.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like to talk about this. And like, I also think, you know, just because someone DMs you doesn't mean that there's any like substance to that relationship.
And it's also like unknowingly, I think on their end, it's very insulting to us because it's basically like them saying that we're so predictable. Like we're going to be the target audience for whoever these athletes are talking to.
Yeah.
And like I've had that before watching football. I've had boyfriends be like, oh, so which one of those have you gone on a date with or has messaged you? And it's like, you know, think higher of me, like to then think that that's going to be what I dated before you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm so difficult. Like he knows, like anyone I've ever dated knows that like these guys can't really just get me from DMing me. Like I'm such a brat. So, so it feels like, hello, like you're talking to the actual person that you know, not like the idea of some girl on Instagram.
A lot of people have a hard time with that. Like a lot of guys can't separate the image that they built up in their head based off of what they see on your profile versus what they get in real life, even if they're dating you.
Yeah.
There's always that thing of like, can the two coexist?
Well, and I think people need to know too, like for guys, if you're dating a girl who gets hit up by, these big name celebrities or athletes or music artists or whatever, none of them have game. Zero. No game whatsoever. So like when they hit on a girl, it is the most lackluster style of getting hit on ever. I've read all their I've read some of the craziest DMs, whatever, and it's never like Prince Charming type of shit. It's straight up like, do you want to come over and fuck? Like it's like that.
No, it is actually like that. I have like
I don't get that. That's
one of the
crazy.
most famous rappers ever, singers. His agent messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Do you have Tuesday available? He has a slot for you."
No.
I get the Tuesday slot. You realize how insulting that is?
Why are you the Tuesday girl? You're the Saturday girl.
But then he had a song about, actually, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah, you're about to, you're about to say something out who he is.
Yeah.
It's just like they don't have game ever. Like it's just I've never heard a story once. I mean, even like the athlete that you mentioned who like took you on the bicycle date, all that, whatever. It's like that is a great date until you hear that he's done it with 10 other girls and he straight up has one date idea and he does the same thing with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like these guys aren't going to put in any sort of work. So again, she's not going to end up with a guy like that because there's going to be no substance there. It's going to be the same sort of shit that he does with everybody, things like that. And then also like it's annoying when the times when you're getting hit up by like the ultra famous, all those guys too want to be super discreet, which like that's the other aspect of it is like you get tired of that. Like I've had friends of mine that have gone on dates with a guy where it's like, oh, we have to be in like the back room at this restaurant. We have to enter in like the back alley. We go through a private entrance, like, and it's like at some point you get tired of being almost felt like you're being kept in the shadows.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, I don't know. Don't look at that shit as your competition because to be fair, like that's not the guy you actually have to worry about.
No.
It's actually just a good, normal dude.
It's the funny guy.
Who's got the chance.
Oh, it's the funny, average looking guy always.
Yeah. No, honestly, I feel like the whole game is that they're famous. And so like we're supposed to do all the work as the girl and we're supposed to be like, they just DM you and they're like, hey, we're supposed to be like, oh my God, when can I meet you?
Yeah,
and like,
honored.
That's not going to happen. And so it's so insulting when like people who actually know me and are dating me in real life think that that's going to happen.
The problem is it works for a lot of women.
Yeah, it does. But you have to know who you're talking to, I think.
Oh, 100%. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't get how that's still a thing. Like I don't get how girls are still wanting to date him.
Yeah.
I really don't at this point.
I think they're just checking off a box. Like it's like, I don't know, to say they've been with Leo. But
see, that's just gross to me. That's like, there's no honor in that. Like, I'm not saying that there's no honor in having had if you have slept with Leonardo DiCaprio and you're listening to this, but I'm thinking like, there's no authenticity in it. There's nothing that's in it for the right reasons. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't get it. I don't get why that works.
It's just like icky.
It's
like
icky.
I don't know. I want to have a real genuine connection with like a real kind, good person.
Totally.
Okay, so you mentioned that when I said like some of these guys will straight up just be super blunt, like, hey, let's have sex, essentially. And you said that's not typically the message that you get. So when these like ultra famous dudes or whatever, when they hit on you, what's their typical banter with you?
I feel like they literally just say the most boring thing. They'll literally just be like, hey, or respond to some story, put an emoji. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're literally so boring. And I think it's just because you're supposed to be like, oh my God, I'm honored. He DM'd me? This is crazy. And like, I don't know. I don't know who that works for. It doesn't work for me.
Fair. Okay, so what does it take then for it to level up? Because you have mentioned, I mean, you were talking about your close friend story and you're like, French pop star, tennis player, things like that. So the people that have been, I guess, successful in sliding in your DMs, like how has that worked? Like what was their approach that got them to get the chance?
I feel like you have to like be funny, like have some banter, be, engaging. Like I think to just slide up with a hey, like even on a dating app, like what am I supposed to say to this? Then I say hey back and then we just like, it just slowly crawls. Like, no, you have to say something engaging, say something interesting. And like, honestly, like get a fun conversation going. I think that's so much more interesting. Even on dating apps when people are like, hey, how are you? Like that's so boring. Why don't you make a comment about something in one of the photos or something like that you did that's kind of interesting. And so now instead of being like, this is the 10th guy that I've said, oh, my day was great, you're like replying to something very specific. You're like, oh, I don't know, if they say something about one of the photos and you're like, oh yeah, that's when I met Tony Robbins and like blah, blah, I can go into that topic. Like that's one of the photos I have on my dating app. But like, I feel like I give people so much to comment on with the photos. And I'm like, now say something interesting.
Yeah, give someone something to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, Tony Robbins, did you do a seminar?
I did. I'm obsessed with him.
Okay. I've had friends that have gone to like countless. They've like traveled around the United States going to his seminars.
Yeah.
What has been like your biggest takeaway from going to one of them?
I think that his whole like philosophy that if you like change your physiology, you can change your psychology, and to like get into like this peak powerful state before you start your day is my favorite thing. So I do his priming meditation every morning, and it's like 15 minutes. You do first you remember some moments of like gratitude, and then you do this like energy work where you flow like the love throughout your whole body, and then you extend it like out to your loved ones and out to the whole world. And then you visualize like these goals that you are working on coming to fruition, and you really feel how that feels. And I don't know, I just feel like it's such an empowering way to start the day.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so not what I would have expected. I guess I don't know what Tony Robbins really does other than he was in Shallow Hal for 5 minutes.
Shallow Hal wants a gal.
Yes. Yes. He's in the elevator and he has the huge hands. Anyways.
He's gigantic.
That's all I know about Tony Robbins. I thought he was just like a motivational speaker, like kind of generic, but people are like, no, he legitimately changes lives.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, he's really great. I went to his UPW like 3-day seminar in November, and like we all walked across the hot coals, and like because I was in this like VIP area where I got to go in like his section, and he was personally hyping me up to like walk across, and I was like, this is so insane. And then I just crossed them, and I felt so proud of myself.
Oh my God.
But I feel like, like doing things that are hard and then feeling proud of yourself is like such an important way to gain confidence.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
One of the biggest ways.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And I feel like, okay, so you're obviously an incredibly confident person. You've been that way since the time I've met you. So I guess like if somebody's listening to this and confidence is something they need to work on within themselves, are there certain things that you do every day to kind of like make sure you approach every day with confidence and, kind of the right mindset? Or is it just kind of something that's within you automatically?
I definitely think it's something that I've worked at. I think that you have to have confidence in this industry, and you have to have a really thick skin. And, that's nothing new. Everyone says that. But I think in general, like I try to be really nice to myself. And I was talking to my little sister earlier, and she reminded me of something that I told her, which was so sweet. And she's like, we did a music video last year, and I was there to, be in the video, and she was with me, and they were like, oh, do you want to be in the background? And then she started saying like, oh, I feel ugly. I wasn't supposed to be here. And I was like, don't say any of that out loud. No one knows how you feel. And so you don't need to go and say, my outfit's not cute today or whatever. Like, think to yourself, if you don't like your outfit, you don't like your outfit, but you're a great person and you're beautiful, and keep it moving. And so I think like I try really hard to just like be kind with myself, be nice to myself, because I think so many times like no one's really even thinking or judging us like as much as we really feel like they are. Like, no one cares. And I think that if you can realize no one cares, you can be like free. And I think so I don't drink alcohol, but I feel like when I go out, I have so much fun. I'm like dancing and having the best time ever because I realize that everyone else is drunk. And so I can still do whatever I want. And I feel like confidence is kind of the same thing. It's like when you realize that nobody cares, you can just do what you want to do.
Have you always been sober, or was that a decision that you made later on in life?
No, I've actually never had alcohol in my life.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
So I decided when I was really little that this was just something I wasn't going to try. I grew up with an alcoholic parent, and then, as I got older, I think it just wasn't interesting to me. And then I got healthy and all that. Like, I feel like if I had drank, I probably would have ended up sober by now anyway, just because of all the other lifestyle choices I've made. But I don't know. I just like never felt like something I wanted to get into.
Do you feel like it was because you saw the dark side of it really early on in life, so you didn't just see it as something that was fun and light?
Yeah. Oh, I was like very scared of it. I was like, oh, alcohol is bad. And then, I had to make peace with that and get over that, because I don't want to like not do something because I'm scared. I want to not do something because like I'm making an empowered choice for me and it just doesn't align with me.
Lead with love instead of fear.
Exactly.
Love that.
Do you think, so I'm always kind of curious then, I feel like most of the time on weekends, nighttime, whatever, people tend to do, hey, let's go to a rooftop bar, or let's go to this, there's a football game on, let's go, drink some beers, or like, let's go, like drinking culture is obviously incredibly prevalent. So what do you like to do, or maybe if it's going on a date, maybe it's hanging out with friends, things like that. Like, what do you like to do I guess instead of going to like a rooftop bar and just sitting there, like, or are you down to just sit there and have like a mocktail, or like, what is, I guess, your thoughts on some of those things?
Oh, I'm totally down to like go out. I love to go out. I love to go to rooftops. I love to be social and be with people in situations where there's drinking. Like if I feel like it, I'll have a mocktail. If I don't, I'll just have the sparkling water. And I feel like, especially in dating, it's never been an issue at all. It's actually a little bit more weird with like making friends, because people like, unless they're super comfortable with themselves, they feel judged by me not drinking, even though I'm not judging them. So I feel like, for me, I don't know. I kind of just do what everyone else is doing, but just without alcohol. And I think maybe because I never had it as a crutch, I just like got used to it. Like, even in high school and stuff, when everyone's drinking and I would go out and I would just be like, people would tell me at first, like, oh, just like hold something and just like pretend. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna tell everyone I'm not doing that, and I'm just gonna go have fun anyway.
Just own it.
Yeah,
that exudes confidence in itself.
Yeah.
Do you have any other vices, I guess? Because I feel like there's been times where I've met people and they're like, okay, instead of drinking, I have this other vice. Whether it's like, there's the expression like California sober, right? People who smoke and things like that. So do you do anything like that? Do you have any other, like, I guess, vices? And then if not, do you, because I feel like there's a lot of people who almost feel like they need a vice. So I guess, have you ever felt the desire to have a vice if you don't have one?
I mean, so I guess I could say like sugar is a vice, because but I don't, honestly, like I could also not have that too. I think I'm kind of viceless, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't really have like something that I feel like I need to do every day. I don't even really drink coffee.
Are you toxic with men? Like, what's your issue?
I mean, I'm so susceptible to being love bombed. That's
okay.
That's my vice, is that I think it makes sense that you fell in love with me after 3 days.
Yeah. I saw a meme that said that they're like, in fact, like you should have done more. Like, yeah.
I'm
totally
like,
makes sense.
I get it, and I would feel the same if I were you.
So if you know that you're susceptible to being love bombed and things like that, like what do you actively do now when you're going on dates, or if you're talking to somebody or whatever, to like try to avoid somebody potentially love bombing you?
I think, I think that I need to see consistency from someone. Because I think, when you're first dating someone, like it is so much fun. And like, where's the line from like just actually falling in love or being love bombed? I think that, it's just longevity and like effort over time is what really gives me like a sense of if someone's genuine.
That's fair.
Do you feel like you fall as fast as other people do as well? Like, do you feel like you're head over heels for them? It's reciprocated?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. There's always people who like are in love with me and I'm like, oh yeah, you're kind of cool. But I do feel like when it's right, like I'm very like open-hearted, which maybe that's my vice and maybe that's something I need to stop doing.
You love love.
But I do. I love love. I love being in love, and like it's a priority to me to like have a happy relationship. So I don't know.
What do you view as a happy relationship? Because I say this all the time too. Whenever I hear, there's like certain women that I've met in my life where like I feel like they're so in love with the idea of love that they then want it so bad that they're willing to overlook negative qualities in order to find what they're looking for, right? Yeah. And you see that all the time when it's like somebody's like, oh, I really want to be a mother. And so therefore they're really looking to like speed up the process of a relationship so they can get to the point of having kids and being married and things like that. And I'm always kind of worried for those people because I'm like, shit, I just don't want you to overlook certain negative qualities to like speed up the process of finding your person and things like that. So I guess, what is your idea of a perfect relationship or a healthy relationship and things like that? And do you think you found that, or do you think based off like the negative relationships or I guess like relationships that haven't worked out in the past, you now know what you need to look for, but you just haven't found that yet?
Yeah, so I definitely haven't found it yet, but I think that the qualities that make a relationship really healthy are like having a growth mindset, someone who's willing to work on themselves and like grow and change and put effort into a relationship. Like I don't think relationships are supposed to be hard and that like, it's very hard to get along. But I think that living with someone is hard and life is hard. And so when you have two people's lives that you're dealing with, the separate things that are hard, and you come together, like it's going to be difficult, but I don't think it should be like so painful. And so I think that someone who's willing to like go through hard things together is something that's really important to me. Someone who's like genuine and kind and, you know, like family oriented, all of these things I think are what makes a relationship really healthy. But I think like all in all, you have to like have good intentions for each other and just be willing to work.
Do you have, I guess, like certain characteristics that are like automatic red flags for you?
Yeah, if you call me babe on the first text.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know whenever a guy like immediately hits you with the babe, you're like, oh, you're a player. But no,
names.
The pet. I know, like I don't like when people are overly familiar with me. Like unless we're there, like you can call me Taylor. And
yeah. I remember an ex called me babe within like 2 weeks of meeting me. And it was like a moment where I was like, for some reason, I don't like this at all. Like it feels almost unsafe.
Yeah.
Proceeded to date them obviously for years. And I wish that I had looked back on that moment and been like, there's something weird here. He's trying to over familiarize himself.
Yeah.
And over attach. So I feel like I can't run away.
Yeah.
It's like almost, it's like faking intimacy or faking closeness.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly. I don't like that at all. But no, I think like, there's so many red flag things that guys do.
Oh, yeah. Well, what are some characteristics that you look for in a man to decipher whether or not they're in it for like a good time versus they're in it for the right reasons?
Oh, I'm just super difficult. Like if you are not here with good intentions, like I will scare you away.
Okay.
So like one of my exes, he flew me to Paris for the first date, and yeah, it was crazy.
Who are you?
And we were chatting, and you know, he's very sweet and very charming and handsome. And he's like, "What are you doing? I'd love to fly you to Paris." And I was like, "Okay, I can do that, but I want to have my own room." And he's like, "Oh, like nobody's ever asked me for that before." And in my head, I'm like, "Okay, well, if you're willing to fly me to Paris for a first date, you know, like business class, obviously money is not an issue. And so if you feel if you want me to be comfortable, that would tell me a lot about what your intentions are." And so, yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And the whole entire weekend I had my own room, and it was like very nice. We ended up dating for like 6 months.
Okay, the thing that would have stuck out to me is that he said no one has ever asked for that before.
Right? I know.
That I've been like, oh,
I know.
so you be doing this.
Oh, you're flying girls out. Yeah,
you're doing this a lot.
Well, I think part of it is too, though, I guess like where I see the red flag in that is like, to me, I'm like, relationships are normal 95% of the time, and then 5% of the time there's this little fantasy aspect of it, right, of like going on vacations or whatever, right? But like whether a relationship works or not is based off the 95%, right? The normal day-to-day activities and things like that. So, you know, if I could probably think of 100 women that I would have a great time with if we went to Paris, right? Like, 'cause it's like, yeah, that would be fun as hell. I could go with my guy friends and thoroughly enjoy
you go
going
with your
to Paris.
enemy and have a good time in Paris.
Yeah, like go by yourself.
Yeah, like so the way I look at it is like, I want to see you in the normal circumstances. I don't really want, like, if I'm truly looking for a relationship and not just looking for a good time, then I want to see us in the very, very normal circumstances. I don't want to see us in the glitz and the glam, because again, I can do that with anybody and enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I almost feel like I try to push back in certain instances, because there's definitely times where I've talked to women before where I've been like, oh, you're really used to receiving 5-star treatment, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not, for somebody that I barely know, like, no, I'm not doing that, because why does that make sense? Like, I don't know you like that yet. Like, I'm not saying I won't get to that point, but like, I need to know you like that. So I want to see what you are like at an average restaurant. Then we can go to the upscale restaurant and things like that. But like, I want to see how you talk to a waiter. Like, I want to see how you interact like during normal circumstances, to see if I see this as like a potential relationship. Because to be fair, you know, I kind of look at it like, there's a lot of pretty people in this world, right? Yeah. So it's like, who do I actually see as like an incredible human? And you can't tell who's an incredible human just based off what they look like, right?
Oh,
you gotta actually get the real them. And so, you know, I know myself, and I've told Anna knows most of my dating stories and stuff like that, but there's been plenty of times I've gotten together with a girl, and in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, yeah, zero interest in her, like zero, negative. And so it's like, if that's Paris, I'm like, shit, now I gotta, you know, deal with her in Paris. Like, I'd rather not. So I'm like, okay, let me see if we can enjoy a basic, you know, normal night, and then we can amplify it from there. Yeah. But, you know, I guess like I prefer seeing the normal side of things before I see the extravagant side of things.
Yeah. Well, I have so many things to say. I feel like I completely agree with you. But I think for him, his life circumstances, that was kind of normal. He does travel like all the time and just kind of like is going in all those different scenarios. But I completely agree with you. And that's why, you know, like there's always this debate online, like, should we do coffee dates? And, you know, like so many people are like, that's so offensive. I would never accept a coffee date from someone. It's so low effort. And I see that all the time on TikTok. And I'm like, a coffee date is a vibe check. Like a coffee date is to see if you look like your photo and if you can carry a conversation and if you're pleasant.
You're vetting them.
That is all we're doing. It takes 30 minutes. And like, honestly, it's easy. You can go wearing whatever you were wearing. Like it's not a whole thing. It's, you don't, people are like, oh, I spent so much money on my makeup, whatever. You were probably wearing makeup today anyway. And like to just stop and meet someone for 30 minutes is very easy. But no, I completely agree. I think you have to kind of get a vibe check before you give someone like so much energy, because it's like, you know, I can talk to a brick wall, but like, do I want to go sit at dinner with someone that I'm not interested in for like 2 hours? Like, no, that's not fun for anyone.
Well, I think a lot of people don't think they're enough on their own. So that's why they're doing the extravagant gestures. They don't feel like them just showing up as they are is going to get the woman to be attracted to them. So they have to do the business class and they have to do the nice hotel and they have to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I go back to. It's like, I feel confident in myself that if I go on a coffee date, she's going to have a damn good coffee date. Like, you know, it's like, that's the
you don't need a crutch.
Yeah, I don't. It's like, you know, again, like, sure, going to Paris with me would be a damn fun time. Like, I'm a foodie. We're going to have the best food you probably ever had. But like, I don't, again, that's like, that's the extravagant stuff. We'll get to that. But like, yeah, I think the vibe check is important. It's like, I know there's definitely a lot of people that kind of believe like, oh, if a guy asks you on a coffee date, it's because he's broke or cheap or whatever. It's like, no, also it's just guys too get to determine if they want to invest their time and energy into you. Like you should want a guy like that. You should not want a guy who just automatically assumes that you're amazing because you're good looking. Like that attracts the wrong type of people. Like my background of being a photographer, I mean, as you guys know, I've shot with both of you. It's like, I'm around beautiful women all the time, so I don't give a damn. Like, I want to get to know you as a person. So I'm not going to just treat you like you're this, you know, like you're the most special person in the world until I know you're the most special person in the world. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful, obviously, but like, I want to actually get to know the real you. I'm not just going to judge you off a dating app, whatever. I just want to get to know you, figure out who you are, what you're all about, and everything like that. Because, yeah, judging somebody based off their looks is never going to end. I mean, it's never, assuming you know somebody based off what they look like is not a great idea.
I don't think that most men like think you're amazing because you're beautiful. They just don't care if you are amazing.
Yeah, they're
all that matters is that you were hot. They're not looking to learn more about you.
Well, and that's where I would go back to, then you're dealing with somebody who obviously isn't looking for something serious, right? Like, if you're truly looking for something serious, and whether you're a guy, girl, whatever you are, whatever you're into, anything like that, if you're truly looking for something serious, then the first date you get together with somebody should be based off conversation. It should not be based off extravagant X, Y, and Z. It should be based off conversation, because you're trying to see, do I envision a future with this person? Which means I need to get to know you. Again, if the first date, I'm like, let's go to Nobu in Malibu, it's like, well, yeah, I can enjoy Nobu in Malibu with literally anybody. Like Anna mentioned earlier, my worst enemy, I could enjoy that with them. So I would rather go and see, can we sit down and have a coffee and enjoy that? Can we walk around somewhere and just, you know, whatever, like walk around and just pop into random shops and just like have fun doing that. And like, not everything needs to be this like crazy adventure, because relationships are not always crazy.
Yeah, that's like real life, you know? Like, can we have fun like at the grocery store? Like, can we have fun just on the couch together? Because that's 90% of life. Like, you're not going to be going to Paris and doing this and that all the time. Like, you're going to be probably like having dinner together at home and doing just low-key things. And like, do you actually like each other? That's very important. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like so much of the dating culture with like this whole narrative online about like high value women, low value women, like only accepting certain types of dates is so damaging.
So damaging. I totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the amount of times I've seen a TikTok that's just like concerning as all hell in terms of like hearing what people are into. And I'm like, dude, this is why the divorce rate in our country is through the damn roof. Like, we're looking for the wrong qualities.
Oh, yeah. There's a dating coach on Instagram where I went down a rabbit hole and I watched all of them. And it was all about high value women and like how to attract a rich man. And I'm like, this is really what we're putting out there now.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's also like so much of the stuff I see online is like advice for sugar babies. I'm like,
that's ultimately what it
this
is.
This is not how you get a quality relationship with a quality person. Like I saw people that were like, don't show up to a date unless he has a gift. Are you insane?
I would be
That is so
disgusted if someone
crazy.
gave me a gift.
Yeah, that is so insane. The gift is that you guys are both making time for each other. And that like,
Totally.
I know I've had some really insane like dating experiences, but like at the end of the day, like it's like a down to earth process dating. Like you want to meet a real normal person.
100%.
So you were saying that you're difficult. Is it like an intentional act, or like do you make a concerted effort to be difficult, or does it just happen naturally, or when does that stop happening?
You know, I'm naturally difficult, but I definitely don't make an effort to like not be like, you know, I could people please a little bit and be a little bit like, oh, you know, maybe like I'm like, oh, you can like come to my area and it can be convenient for me. And I think I do these things again to see if someone has good intentions.
Okay.
Yeah, like, you know, are you going to pick a date spot that's right by your house so that you can be like, oh, come look at my view after? No, like I don't want to do that. I want you to like be a gentleman, come to me, and like, I don't think I'm excessively difficult, and I'm definitely not rude. I'm very nice about it. But I think that, like, there is a little bit of a challenge in the way that I interact with people that I'm, like, newly meeting.
I don't think that's difficult. I think that's just having high standards.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have high standards, but not in the, like, TikTok dating culture kind of way.
Gross, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it is important. Like, you know, the amount of times I know of a girl who's flown to a guy for the first time, and I'm like, you know, like, he could fly to you, right?
Yeah.
Like you do know that is a possibility. And, you know, I get in certain circumstances, maybe that's not possible and things like that. But I'm like, you know, again, there should be effort that's put out that you notice right away, right? But also, again, from the guy's perspective, that also should be reciprocated, right? There should be energy that you notice on her end of like truly her wanting to get to know you too, right? So I look at like effort as an attractive thing. Like, show me that you genuinely want to get to know me, and that is super attractive to me because, again, it's like at the end of the day, a relationship is a lot of times sitting on a couch together and you know, watching football on a Sunday. It's going to grab breakfast in the morning. It's cooking dinner together. It's grocery shopping and doing laundry. Like, it's a lot of really basic activities, and you just want to enjoy the person that you're with and their presence and everything like that. So again, it's like, are you taking the time to want to actually get to know me and what I'm all about and, you know, what truly makes me me? Or are you like trying to use me in some way and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And so when people are looking for a serious relationship and truly looking for a serious relationship, because that's the other thing. So many people say they are looking for a serious relationship and their actions do not match that. The amount of times I've said to a girlfriend of mine, like, you're telling me you're looking for a serious relationship, but you went on a date with that bozo. What was the point of that? Like, what did you think was going to happen there? Like, did you think that this is going to lead to marriage? Like, truly. And it's like, stop putting your energy into bozos and losers. And that goes for guys, that goes for girls, that goes for anybody. If you don't thoroughly enjoy them as a human and what they bring to the table and their characteristics and who they are at their core and like how they make you feel and things like that, if that's not the things that you're paying attention to, then you're not truly looking for a serious relationship. You are looking for a fling, or you are looking for something that has an expiration date. If you're truly looking for a great relationship, your priorities are so different and the qualities that you look for are so different because you're not looking for something that's temporary. You're looking for something that's forever, right?
Yeah,
So
Mic drop. That was nice.
well, because
Beautiful.
it's so damn irritating.
I know. I felt the passion in your voice. I know you've thought about this.
Yeah, I mean, because there's so many times when you're talking to somebody, a friend of yours, whatever, and they're talking about some guy they're dating or girl they're dating or whatever, and you're just like, this shit sucks. Like, are we being honest? Like, what are we talking about? Like, you know, they're just like, yeah, but at their core, they're great. And I'm like,
we've all done it. Like, we've all done it.
I know, but at some point, you have to be an adult and realize, okay, if I have negative qualities that I've looked for in people previously, I need to elevate my own effort that I'm putting into dating, right? You talked about like TikTok dating culture and things like that. It's like, instead of looking for the, you know, oh, you need to look for a rich man and things like that. It's like, why aren't we looking for the high character individuals, right?
Yeah.
And showing people how to find the high character individuals versus the person that, like, again, can like take care of you, sure, but like, do you think there's not a cost of that? You know, somebody who's willing to pay for your entire lifestyle and things like that. If you don't think there's a cost to that, you've lost your damn mind. You've lost the plot.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to know about the cord cutting rituals. We mentioned that like in the notes when we were talking about what we want to discuss. What is a cord cutting ritual?
So in the past, when I've had breakups, I worked with this like psychic healer, and he's amazing. And he basically does this meditation where he like cuts the cords between you and your ex, or like any other like energetic attachments that you have to these people. And I think it just helps you to like release them and to move on. And it's very like woo woo, but I really like it.
Do you feel a noticeable difference before and after the session?
I do. I feel like it actually helps so much to like, because you know when you are first going through a breakup and you're like squeezing so hard to the relationship, you're like, I want it to work so bad, and you're like, you know, so distraught and desperate. And I feel like it just releases kind of some of that energetically. But like I've definitely been there. Like I've paid witches on Etsy to like put love spells on people. So like
to make them love you?
Yeah.
Or to make them go away?
No, so they have curses too. I've never tried that. I feel like that feels like bad karma.
Totally.
But yeah, I paid this witch on Etsy like, I don't know, like $15 to put a love spell on someone. It was my ex. And I remember she had like
Wait, was he ex at the time?
At the time, no, but like almost like it was going downhill.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, let me just reach out to this Etsy witch and get her to do a love spell. And so I remember I felt really good about it because she had a 90-day refund policy. And I was like, okay, this is great. So I sent her like the photos, and I was like, do this, love spell on him, whatever. She sends me back. She's like, it's done. He's going to come back to you. And I was like, great. And then, after like a week, I didn't even like him anymore. I was over it. But like the next, 3 months later, I messaged her. I'm like, hey, that didn't work. Can I have my money back? And she's like, it's only been 87 days. So like 3 days later, I was like, okay, now can I have my money back? She's like,
that's hilarious.
I know. I mean, it's funny. I tried it a couple of times. I don't know that it works, but that's the only time I did the refund.
So she didn't do the spell when you were on the phone? Like you didn't hear what she was saying?
No, she just like, it was the honor system.
Oh, we don't even know she's doing anything.
Yeah,
she's getting $15.
That might be one of the greatest cons I've ever heard. Like,
yeah.
That's.
I mean, you should set up an Etsy account. You're a hustler.
You would be good at that.
I just put a love spell on him. He's going to come back to you.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
You're like, just curse him. All set.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's just Mark showing up at the house and like terrifying the guy and being like, text her.
Yeah.
I'd pay for that.
For sure. Someone to scare your ex would be awesome.
Yeah.
That could be another service. You might get shot. You do have to think about that.
I guess there's like a hitman.
Yeah, as long as I didn't know.
Yeah, like, we just invented a hitman.
What a concept.
I do feel like maybe if you are putting a love spell on somebody, that might be a sign that your relationship is fucked. That might.
I think that could mean that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it means you tried everything you could, and so you could really walk away knowing that like all the effort was put in on your end.
Yeah, I'm just annoyed that I used a love spell on that guy. I was like, ew.
Oh, isn't it weird when we're down bad like that for like the weirdest people?
Of all exes, like that one, like what was I thinking? That's why like a week later I was like, who? I forgot all about him.
You must got embarrassed. You're like, I can't believe I did this.
No, legitimately, when I was dating him, I remember my best friend's mom was like, oh, he's so handsome. I was like, where?
Oh, that's
like I did not like him. I don't know why I was so down bad and put a love spell. That's so funny.
Yeah, you had to head out. Okay, the cord cutting ritual. When you said that he releases certain things, is there anything that he mentally focuses on, like chant wise? I'm just really curious of how he does it.
So it's kind of like visualization. Like, you're in this meditative state, and he's kind of like imagining like scissors, like literally cutting the cords that like hold you and other people together. So just kind of, it's more of a visualization, but it's nothing. It's not as crazy as it sounds.
I feel like you could do that on your own.
You could totally do it on your own.
Yeah, like a self at home kit.
I always feel like when I'm like very distraught in a breakup, I'm just like all the healers. Like I need my therapist, I need my psychics, I need my astrologers, like all the things. I'm like, is it Mercury retrograde? Like what's going on here?
I do Google that often.
Sometimes things are feeling suspicious.
Yeah. Every once in a while I'm just like, all right, this is a week.
Something must be up.
Is Mercury in retrograde? What's going on here? I'm like, I just need some sort of validation that there's something that I can't control that's causing this.
Exactly. You're like, something is weird cosmically.
Yeah.
I don't know
what's your birthday?
October 29th. I'm a Scorpio.
You're Scorpio. Okay. I was going to say, what sign is super into all of that sort of stuff? I was thinking Sagittarius.
Oh, I'm a Sag moon.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
We have to include that in every episode. Something about astrology.
We damn near ask it every time now, but
I need to know the sign.
Yeah. So, okay, when you're in a relationship, I feel like there's a I don't know how to describe this, but there's like a perfect aura about you. Like something where it's like I feel like you have this like presence where you're extremely confident, things like that. As a result of that, do you struggle to be super vulnerable with people? I guess is that like, because I think when you show vulnerability to somebody, you're essentially showing, hey, I'm not perfect, and here are my flaws, here are the things that make me feel some type of way, things like that. Does vulnerability come easy to you, or is it difficult?
No, vulnerability has been a journey for me, and I think because I grew up and like had a really difficult upbringing, I really wanted to present as someone who like had it together and was like, not like perfect, but like I wanted to present in a way that looked put together and like looked really good. So the last like couple of years, I feel like I've been on a journey to like be more vulnerable. And I think that my time like doing pageants really, really like on one hand, like I had to learn vulnerability, but on the other hand, I would just do it in like a little soundbite. I'd be like, this is the story of my childhood. Here's the approved soundbite that's vulnerable. And then I feel like as I've gotten older, I have to realize like, no, it's actually showing like things that you're uncomfortable with, and vulnerability doesn't have to be just about childhood trauma. Like you can be vulnerable by being like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like it's just about being like authentic with your emotions. And so I think that these last couple of years it's been a journey to be more vulnerable, but I think that it's something that's like you feel so much more connected with someone when you feel their realness and their humanness. And I know that's like feedback that I've always gotten from people is that like I do seem like too put together. And so I feel like in order to like really deeply connect with someone, like I have to let my guard down a little bit.
I had an ex tell me once that he couldn't fall in love with me because I was incapable of being vulnerable, that I was always so like perfect and on. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you don't fall in love with somebody because they're always in a good mood and they always have the right thing to say. Mm-hmm. You fall in love when you've gotten each other through something really difficult, or you share a part of yourself that's, might be ugly or not necessarily beautiful and you're proud of.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you don't do that. You're not willing to do any of that. Therefore, love cannot be born here.
Yeah.
It's like, it was like a gut punch where like, now I'm like, these are my traumas. This is everything I have.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like to be that person on the receiving end of the vulnerability is so special, like when I'm with those people who I feel so comfortable with that I can just like be my authentic self and they really see me and get me. Like all the people and close friends who see me being absolutely insane versus the people who are just watching my story and think I'm like, oh, a very like proper pageant girl. Mm-hmm. So I think like when you're on the receiving end of the vulnerability, like it feels special, and it helps you connect with people to be like, oh, she felt good enough to share this with me. Like she wanted to open up with me. I think that's really like a cool thing.
I totally agree.
That's something that I always pay attention to is who I can get vulnerable with and who can get vulnerable with me. Mm-hmm. But if I feel like you have this like kind of facade up, it's like one of my biggest icks or red flags or whatever is like, I just need to see the real version of you. Yeah. I get that we're not going to go on because I think there are the people that I think are almost like vulnerability opportunists. And what I mean by that is like when somebody posts a photo of themselves crying on their Instagram story, I'm like, you're a vulnerability opportunist. Like in the moment where you were crying, you thought to take out your phone and take a selfie. That's crazy to me. That is one of the biggest red flags I've ever seen in my life. Because a true vulnerable moment like that, you're not thinking about your phone. You are thinking about the pain you are going through in that moment, right? And so I look at, who can be truly vulnerable when they're with you in private in terms of, and it can mean in a number of different ways. It can be talking about past trauma. It could be as simple as like showing me your face without makeup, like, fresh out of the shower. What do you look like? Or, hungover in the morning, like what you look like. It's like things like that, going to like a workout class and seeing you like, kind of disheveled afterwards. Like going to talking about something hard that you've gone through or talking about, work and something that frustrates you, like talking about family stuff and getting into the stuff that shows that your family's not perfect. It's like, I want to see the real you. I'm not looking to see the perfect Instagram version of you, whatever. I'm looking to see the authentic, true version of you. And then same thing with me. I want to be that with you. If I can't be that with you, there's something off about our energy. And like, for whatever reason, this is just not working, but I want to get to that level because again, I can't say I know you and I can't say you know me if we haven't been vulnerable with each other, right? Mm-hmm. So I look at that again as like nobody's perfect, nobody's life is perfect, nobody's, whatever is perfect. So therefore, how quickly can I figure out the real you, and can I be comfortable enough to get to that point with you, and vice versa? And if we don't have that, we have nothing,
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's so important too who you feel comfortable to open up with. Like, it's like you mentioned that, but it's such a good thing to like notice. Like sometimes when I go on dates with guys, like I don't want to tell them anything about me. Like I don't feel comfortable. And so I remember I dated this guy for like a month, and he was like, you're so like easygoing, and you're just like, very like proper, and I never know what's going on. And I realized like, I don't like you. Like, I don't feel good here. And so I think, I think there's the people also on the flip side who completely go into like trauma dumping as a way to like get that fake intimacy. And they'll be like, oh, like, hi, I know I met you 5 minutes ago. Yeah, we want still water, but this is all the things that have ever happened to me in my whole life. Like, that's insane too.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's like, it's just a spectrum, of being authentic and feeling what, like, who you can be yourself with and what feels like natural and right, and like following that.
Yeah, good middle ground on the vulnerability.
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, if she starts crying middle of the date, I'm going to be like, okay, this is tough. First date.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
if you both are crying, I mean, that's beautiful.
like I don't really want to hear about like whatever is the worst thing that's ever happened to you within 5 minutes. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, we
and
gotta work our way
that
out.
shows me that you're not like a regular, like emotionally stable human.
Yeah, we got to emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
And vulnerability to me is not always like crying or explaining your worst, like, worst thing that's ever happened to you and things like that. Vulnerability can be literally as simple as like, I'm trying to think of like a random example, but like if you're going to like the movies with somebody and they're like, I really love, one of my favorite movies ever is, and they name the super random movie that you've never really even heard of or thought of or whatever, and you're like, oh damn, like why is that movie so special to you? And they're like, oh, it was my grandpa's favorite movie and we watched it a ton growing up. It's like you can find little vulnerable moments like that are like, damn, like I appreciate knowing that, But vulnerability is not always just trauma dumping the shit out of things. It's just like being honest,
Doesn't have to be
and
negative.
yeah, it's just not putting up a facade is what true vulnerability is. And so I just look at the people like, who can I be comfortable with? And if you have to almost be like, I guess like I don't know if you're like guarded, or like you're having to think about everything you say to that person. It's like, this is not comfortable. I just want to shoot the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you want the person you can be kind of like silly with, and like you're just have those moments of vulnerability too, the more like positive type of vulnerability where you're like, oh, this is me when I'm like not on and I'm just a little bit goofy and a little bit silly. And like, that's, it's just so important to have someone that makes you feel comfortable.
That's a big one for me, is the being not on thing. I feel like I have a really hard time just like showing up as me. I feel like I will think ahead of time, almost like script, like, okay, you don't know them that well. So like, cover this, and this, so that we can like be funny. And then we can also do this and do that. And it's like, human interaction doesn't have to be so forced and so planned. And like, God forbid you don't say something funny or the perfect thing at that moment. Like, they will forgive you for that and they won't mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great point to wrap it up. Taylor, this has been awesome. We've covered a number of different subjects.
This is your first podcast. You're such a natural.
Thank you. It's been a roller coaster. We've had all kinds of different topics.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Well, we're gonna have to get you back on the podcast at some point, and then also we all just got to hang out more.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I've known you two for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
But hey, Taylor moved to New York, so
And then you introduced
yeah.
us.
well, she moved to New York.
Well, now she's back.
Yeah, she's back.
We got her back.
Yeah. So, anywho, Taylor, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll do this again soon.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Love you guys. Bye.
See you guys.